Good morning and welcome to another Bible study with Melody. Today we're going to be talking about the book of Esther. Esther, as you know, was a queen, and she was not necessarily a born with a silver spoon in her mouth queen. She was more like our Princess Diana, may she rest in peace. Esther was one who came into the throne after the queen, who was born with a spoon in her mouth, disobeyed the order of the king. It was at that time that King Xerxes had a party, and it was a long party. It was like 18 months long, and he showed off the land. He showed off all these things to all of the big kings and dignitaries around his country. And it was at this time that he called for Vashti to come, and during those days, come on, they had been drinking, so you know what he wanted her to do, parade around her body so that those guys could look at her and ooh and ah and do whatever, because she was under the king's command back in those days. This is Old Testament, Middle Eastern living, so you have to think about that. The women then didn't have all of the freedoms that we have now. There was no Margaret Mead, there was no Gloria Steinem to stand up, or Angela Davis or Maya Angelou. There was no one like that for the women during those times. So if the king spoke or if the man spoke, then obedience was the expected thing. And if not, you would be stoned or beheaded or locked in a dark room. And so it brings us to our lesson. Esther is famous for saying, "If I perish, let me perish," and so with that, she did. She did not perish, but she did go before the king, and she did win his favor. And from that, the Jews were exonerated. They were treated more as people. The guy who was the antagonist in this whole story of the book of Esther, his name is Haman. And Haman was the one who was just like, building gallows 8 feet tall to hang all the Jews and all of this. And it ended up and this is a spoiler alert, it ended up where Haman gets hung in those very same gallows, and the Jews are exonerated, and there's peace in the land. There's all is right in the world. And it's all because of her sacrifice. She honored what her cousin Mordecai said to her, and she chose to sacrifice herself. And she said those words, "If I perish, let me perish, but I will go to see the king." And from fasting, they fasted together. And when it was time for her to go, many evangelists and different preachers, I've heard them preach this, and they're like, she's soaked in perfumes and the best oils. But then there's a historical piece out there called the Additions, and when you read those, they give a more poignant view of how, what actually went on. So she didn't wear any oils at all. She didn't wear any of that. She came almost as far as being able to lure him. It was not that. It was her very presence after this fasting that brought her into the favor, that gave her the desire of her heart and the heart of the Jewish people, and that was favor with the king. So it comes to question, what are you looking for? What are you doing? Where is your kingdom? And what are you, maybe your kingdom is your home. Maybe it is your church. Maybe it is those bills. Your kingdom is running you instead of you running the kingdom. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices, and those sacrifices mean that we draw away for a few days, for a few moments, for a few hours, and we sacrifice. We put down a plate. We deal with prayer. We stay there longer than, "Lord, if you just give me everything I want, I'll be happy." We stay longer than that. We honor him. We give him his due through fasting, through prayers, through crying out people's names, the way that at the end of President Obama's speech, eulogizing Senator Clemente Pinckney, may he rest in peace, he began to call out at the very end. He sung Amazing Grace, and then he just began to scream out the names of all of those people that lost their lives, the ultimate sacrifice. So that's sometimes what we have to do, and we have to join ourselves, because the Word of God tells us they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Hey, this has been another moment of Bible study with Melody. Please read the book of Esther and comment. Let me know what you think. Tell me what other books you'd like to talk about, or if you have questions, feel free to email me. All right, take it easy. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.